Hello bass players, welcome back. We need to talk about tuning. Now, if you are already comfortable tuning your bass, you can skip this lesson. But if you're new to bass playing, then this lesson is for you. I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about getting tuned up, including the string names, octave numbers, how to operate your tuning pegs using a tuner, and even a slick tuning hack that is great for bass. So here I have a 4-string bass. Each string produces a different note on its own when we're not holding down the frets. And whatever the note that it produces, well, we name the string after that note. All of our notes are letters, A through G. So each of these strings is named after a letter. You have the E string, the A string, the D string, and the G. So going from thick to thin, that's E, A, D, and G. This is the traditional tuning for a 4-string bass. When you use a tuner, which we'll get to in a little bit, the tuner should reflect the letter as well. So if you hit an E and it's in tune, it should tell you that you're playing at E. Some tuners will also add numbers to this. Numbers isn't something that you really need to get into or understand very much, but I do want to let you know what numbers we can expect if your tuner shows you numbers as well. Here's what I mean. Each note can be produced in multiple octaves. If you're familiar with a piano keyboard, you might know about middle C. It's the C in the middle of the piano. Well, you have a C above that. That's the C an octave higher. You have a C above that. That's an octave higher than that. You also have Cs lower consecutively. So C below that is an octave lower. C below that is an octave lower. Well, each of these Cs is named C, but they also get numbers so that we can tell, if we want to, we can talk about what octave we're in. So this E is called E1. This A is A1, and the next two strings are number 2. So this is D2 and G2. The higher the number, the higher the octave. E1 is whatever octave it is. It's a low octave. So E2 would be 1 octave higher than that, and E3 is 1 octave higher than that. Like I say, this isn't something I really want you to be thinking about too much unless you're just really into octave numbers for some reason. But I do want you to be aware of this. Your tuner might show you octave numbers, so now you know what those are. But your tuner also might show you the wrong octave numbers, which makes the whole matter more confusing. Another reason that I don't really want you to think about it too much. If you play the E string and it's an E1, your tuner might just say E2, might flip back and forth between E1 and E2. Sometimes tuners aren't good at hearing that string because there are overtones in that string that are also E2, but that is a whole nother physics class that we're just not going to do today. If you be having a 5-string, then more than likely you've got a low B. So, we've talked about this before, but just to review, your thinnest 4 strings, so not your thickest string, is your thinnest 4 strings. That is the same notes as a 4-string. Traditionally, that's how we tune a 5-string bass. And then we add a low B to that. So if you have a 5-string bass, you probably have a low B, and then E, A, D, and G. That B is so damn low that we call it B0. Yes, there's a 0 octave. And so B0 is your low B string. You could alternatively choose to string your 5-string not with a lower string, but with a higher string. In that case, you'd have your thickest 4 strings, your low 4 strings, same as a 4-string bass, E, A, D, and G, and then you would add, traditionally, a high C to that. So, if you have a 5-string strung like that, then you have E, A, D, G, and C. This C is an octave higher, or it's the next level in octave numbers. And so this would be C3. E1, A1, D2, G2, and C3. Again, not super important, but there you have it. And if you combine the two options of 5 strings, you get a 6-string bass. Or if you just add a low string and a high string to a 4-string bass. You follow? You get a low B, a high C, the middle 4 are the same. You get B0, E1, A1, D2, G2, and C3. That's it. Those are your string names and the octave numbers. As we talked about in a previous lesson, these are tuning pegs. And tuning-wise, that's where the magic happens. This is where you put your instrument in tune. Tuning peg, right there. That's the spot. That's what we're looking for. The number of tuning pegs you have should be equal to, exactly equal to, the number of strings you have. If not, I don't know what to tell you. We're on a 4-string bass. I've got 4 tuning pegs. So the math works. 4 equals 4. We're good to go. What I need to know, first thing I need to know, is which peg controls which string. Now, if you follow the string, then this is pretty easy to figure out. Let's start tuning my lowest string, my thickest string, my E string. Right there. Okay? Following it up, and it looks like, boom, it's right there. So this peg wraps around this machine head, and that's going to be associated or connected to this tuning peg. If you have all your tuning pegs on this side of the headstock, so on the upper side, the way I'm holding it right now, the one that's closest to you should be just like the string that's closest to you. Should be your lowest string. This is my lowest string, one that makes the lowest note. My E string, it's the closest to my chin, and so that should be my lowest string. And the other strings should follow. Again, if you're having trouble with this, or if you're not sure, just follow the string and you can see which machine head it's connected to and which tuning peg it's connected to. So I want to tune my E string, and I have found the tuning peg that goes to my E string, and now I need to know which direction makes the string or the note higher or lower. Remember, it's the opposite of what you would think it is. Okay, so what does that mean? Let's say I want to make my note go higher. What does the string need to do? Well, the string needs to tighten. If I tighten that string, it will make a higher note. So, thinking about a screwdriver, which way would that be on a screwdriver? Well, if I'm looking at this tuning peg, that would be clockwise. Tighten the screw, you turn the screwdriver clockwise. So one would think that if I wanted to tighten a string, I would tighten the tuning peg, meaning turning it clockwise. Well, as it so happens, that's exactly the opposite of the way it's traditionally set up. So if I turn this clockwise, we're actually lowering that note. If I turn it counterclockwise, we're actually going to tighten the string and raise that note. Can you hear that? The note drops when I turn it clockwise, and the note raises or goes up, tightens the string as I go counterclockwise. And that's going to be exactly the same for all of these tuning pegs. Now, you might have tuning pegs on the other side of your headstock as well. So before we had them on the top side of the headstock, on this bass, still a 4-string, but I've got tuning pegs on the other side of the headstock too. So traditionally, again, you can just follow the string to figure out which goes to which, but traditionally we're going to see the lowest string here moving away. This is the next string, so this is my E string. This is my A string. And now it's going to wrap around the other side. So I'm going to continue going to my higher strings, where this is going to be my D, or my next higher string, and this is going to be my G, my next higher string. So low to high, low to high, low to high. So with tuning pegs on both sides, that takes care of which string is which. Now, which way do we go? Still should be the same on this top side, and it's going to be the same on the other side as well, but only if you're looking at it. If you ever put a bed or a table or a chair together, like say from IKEA or something, and the screwdriver, you have the screwdriver on the opposite side, right, of the thing that you're building, you have to think opposite for righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, right? Because if I'm facing the screw this way, I go clockwise, go around this way, now the way I'm facing it has to go counterclockwise in order to tighten that screw. The same thing applies here. So when I go to the opposite side here, I have to sort of think backwards with the way I'm going to tighten and loosen the string. If I picture myself looking at it from this way, it's the same, or if I picture myself looking at it from the opposite side, it's backwards. And that's how that works. Tuners. I want you tuning with a tuner. There are ways you can tune without a tuner. You can tune by ear, by listening to a note. If you have perfect pitch and you're just completely amazing that way, you could tune that way. But I highly recommend that you use a tuner. It is, for most situations, it is the most accurate tuning that you can get. So we're going to learn to tune with a tuner. So before we break the tuner out, I do want to say that really try to keep your bass close to in tune. Once you get too far away from the note that you want it to be, so if my E string shows up and it's a G or a D or something that's not an E, then I might have some trouble finding that note. If you have this situation, if you play the note on your bass and the tuner showing not the note that you're expecting, either try to get some help with that, either try to have someone help you bring it back to in tune or even close to in tune, or just make sure that you don't tighten the string too much. If the note that you have is higher than the note that you're looking for and you don't know that and you keep tightening that string, the string will break and then you gotta change your strings. So that's no good. So when in doubt, loosen the string to try to find your note or try to get some help with it. This, friends, is a headstock tuner. These are awesome. So I just use this little clip this onto my headstock. Yay! And it will sense the vibrations from the neck, from the bass. The string makes the vibrations go into the body, into the neck, up to the headstock, and it senses it there. I don't have to have my volume on, so that's all I have to do. Just clip the tuner somewhere onto the headstock. Turn the tuner on, so I'm going to do that. So now when I play a note, it should tell me what note I'm playing. And we can see this says E, showing up as an E. Fantastic. That's what I was hoping it would be. So it's an E, but the tuner is usually going to have a midway point, and that's usually going to be the in tune marker. So this is, if you can see, there's some red on here, and it's showing that it's a little bit low. Now you just saw that it went to the middle just for a second right there, and that middle spot, that's in tune. Now just because it hits it for a second doesn't mean I'm in tune. And the string, over its natural fluctuation and whatever the instrument's doing, all the physics involved, this string does have some natural warble to it. So you will see something move slightly in and out of tune. You want to tune it to where it's settling, and this seems to be settling, looks like just a little bit on the lower side. So I've identified that my string is out of tune. Fantastic. That's step one. I've also identified which tuning peg to use, and now I just need to know which direction to go. So the meter was on the left side, means that my note is too low. I want to make the note higher. What do you do to make a note higher? You tighten the string. And what do you do to tighten the string? You do the opposite of whatever you think you should do, right? With a screwdriver, you'd go righty-tighty. Well, we're going to go lefty-tighty. There you go. So I'm going to hit the string. I want the string ringing. One of the new bass player mistakes I see is to just start cranking this thing without the string ringing. Well, if I let the string ring while I'm watching the tuner and while I'm tuning the peg, then I can see in real time what's happening. So hit the string. I'm gonna gently turning this. I'm turning this. You can't see me doing very much, but I'm turning it counterclockwise. And we see that it has fallen to in tune. That's great. That's what we want it to do, obviously. Now, if I tighten it too much, which if you're new to tuning is very, very likely, I now have some yellow. And on this tuner, the yellow is bad. It's not terrible, but it means that I've gone too far. It means that the note is now too high. I've got red on one side showing the note is too low. The yellow on the other side shows that the note is now too high. And if I play along with the band and the guitar player hits an E chord and I hit my low E, it's going to sound terrible. So I don't want that. Don't want to sound terrible. I need to now do what? I have a note that is too high in pitch. I need to do what to the string? Loosen it, is what I hope you just said. And to loosen it, I need to do what? The opposite, yes, of whatever I think I should do. So to loosen something, normally I'd go counterclockwise. We're not going to do that because this is opposite world. We're going to go clockwise. And I'm going to go clockwise to loosen this string. And it's a miracle. I'm in tune. There we go. I'm going to verify that. Oh, now it's out of tune now. It was in tune just a second ago. Now it's out of tune. This is a really good opportunity for us to talk about how we go from a higher note to a lower note. Whenever you're tuning, the last thing you do when you tune should be to tighten the string. That means that I should always be tuning from low to high. Okay, so let's drop this a little bit. Oh, see, now it's not a note that I know. It's a D. It says D. It's got that little pound sign, by the way. If your tuning note that you're tuning, if your tuner says sharp, which is a pound sign, or a little B, which is a flat, then you're not tuning to the note that you want. That would be an E that's a fret above, if it's an E sharp, or an E that's a fret below, if it's an E flat. So we don't want that. We want just a regular E, so make sure that it's showing the regular E. So the D is way too low. That's a note below E. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this back up. And as I go slowly, okay, it was showing the D that was really, the D sharp that was really sharp. Now it's showing an E that's really flat. That's what we expect. Okay, we're going to keep pulling this up until it's in tune. Now, if I go too far, here's where the low to high rule becomes important. If I go too far, it says B. That's actually fairly common. Don't worry about that. If it flips between a few different note names, that just wait a second, let it settle. Okay, because B is actually sonically, physically very close to E. That's a whole other physics class as well. Maybe we'll do that one later. But for now, I have an E that's too high. So what do? I can't tune down to that note. That's not what I want to do. I want to tune up to that note. So I have to drop it down below. Still says B. There we go. E. Have to drop it down below where I want it to be, and then bring it back up. So drop it down. I'm going clockwise to loosen the string. Bring it back up. I'm going to go counterclockwise to tighten that string. There we go. Now I'm in tune. The bass plays low notes, right? We know this. But tuners sometimes don't respond well to the low notes. And so what I'll do is I'll use a harmonic to tune if the tuner is not being very responsive, especially if you have a low B. This can be an issue. So to do the harmonic, I'm going to place my finger right above the 12th fret. So I have, you can see my double dot there. This is my 12th fret. It's a little crooked, but it's a 12th fret. And I'm going to put my finger right on top of the fret there. And I'm not going to press the string down. I'm just going to lightly touch my finger and go ahead and pluck the string. And what I get is a perfect octave. And so instead of this being a B0, so this should show as a B0 on a tuner that shows numbers, this might show as a B1. Now the cool thing is that if the octave is in tune, if that harmonic is in tune, then the string is also perfectly in tune. This is not true for any other harmonics. So you might see people tuning like this. So trying to make sure that those two notes sound the same. That is a very close way to tune, but it's not purely accurate. Which is fine. It doesn't matter that much. But the octave, just so you know, is purely accurate. And I can do that with any one of my strings. If I find it easier to tune that way, if I find the tuner more responsive, then I can play the harmonic, lightly touching my finger just on top of the 12th fret and plucking the string, and I get this nice, beautiful, in this case, octave G, which my tuner is responding to. There you have it, bass players. That's how we tune our basses. It's not sexy, it's not slick, but it's absolutely necessary. So check your tuning, make sure you're in tune, and I'll see you in the next lesson.